Dan Quayle on the ticket that year. Democrats thought they had a great attack ad, going after Quayle as a bad and even irresponsible choice. But again, just like with the Democrats' attack against Agnew 20 years earlier, it didn't work. Nixon and Agnew won in 1968 despite the attacks on Agnew being a bad choice. Bush and Quayle won in 1988 despite the attacks on Quayle being a bad choice. And in 1988, Bush and Quayle won by a lot. I think history would judge that Spiro Agnew and Dan Quayle were not good choices to be Vice President of the United States, obviously for very different reasons. They sort of veer between disastrous on Agnew's part and embarrassing on Quayle's part in terms of vice presidential choices. The opposing parties knew that in advance, they knew it in enough time to try to make an issue of it in the campaign. But it's hard to make an issue of bad vice presidential choices in the campaign. Most of the time, even really bad running mate choices,
I have 240 ammo, 40 bullets are on me. You have 40 bullets.
But right now, tonight, as we speak, we may be about to test that hypothesis one more time.
Now I'm at 200.
And that story is next.
240 ammo, now I'm at 200. Wow. Wasting my ammo. Where are the flags? I don't know if this is a fingering. So, I did another attempt on this. And
we're going to know soon enough.
Over 15 minutes.
And so I don't mean to get out over my skis here. I don't mean to predict something before when it actually happens. We don't know exactly when we're going to hear who Donald Trump's running mate is going to be. We certainly don't know who he's going to pick. But we're starting to get a lot more information about how this decision is going to be made known to us. The campaign said today they're going to formally announce who the running mate is at an event in New York City on Friday. We don't know if that Friday event will be the first time we'll learn who Donald Trump's running mate is. We don't know if in advance of that Friday New York City event the name will be released or leaked to the press. Politico.com reported today that Donald Trump will be making his decision on who his running mate will be today. Final decision time is today. The event formally announcing the decision is Friday. Now, if he's making the decision today, it's sort of worth looking at what his itinerary was like today. It may just be a coincidence. It may be because Donald Trump's private plane, in fact, got a flat tire while he was in Indiana yesterday doing a rally and a fundraiser. So maybe he wanted to leave Indiana today and go somewhere else, but he couldn't because his plane had a flat tire. I don't know. But on this day, when Donald Trump supposedly was making up his mind about his running mate, making his final decision, he spent the day today in the state of Indiana. He started the day by bringing all his adult children to the home of Indiana Governor Mike Pence, who's not only said to be on Donald Trump's final shortlist. Mike Pence is now publicly angling so hard for the vice presidency that
there is so much murder map games, whatever things.
The last vice presidential candidate from Indiana was Dan Quayle, who also notably angled for it really hard.
A lot of people have my parkour.
But the similarities don't necessarily stop there. And I think it's important to remember that with Dan Quayle, some of the things that ultimately went wrong with him as a vice presidential choice, you really could see coming ahead of time. It was pretty blaringly obvious public stuff. If you just look at Dan Quayle's first appearance as George Bush's newly named running mate, Dan Quayle, even at that first appearance, was already showing signs of what he would ultimately become known for as a national candidate and then as a sitting vice president. Even on day one, even at the announcement of Dan Quayle as the running mate, he was already
2 to the left and 3 to the right.
Enthusiastically not making very much sense right into the microphone.
George Bush's America understands the problems that confront us and can lead us to the future and the 21st century. We will win because America cannot afford to lose.
That was the day Dan Quayle was announced as a running mate. I mean, saying things that have the right cadence. They sound, it's the cadence of a sentence that might make sense, but we're going to win because America can't afford to lose, and that's why we'll win. And what George Bush's America understands about problems, I mean, graph that sentence for me, right? There were already signs that there was maybe something not awesome about Dan Quayle as a potential running mate on day one. And I think that example today is worth keeping in mind as it starts to become clear that Mike Pence really might be Donald Trump's choice as the next Indiana Republican to be tapped as a potential vice president. Now, Mike Pence started as a conservative radio host in Indiana. Then he lost a couple of runs for Congress. Then he got into Congress in the year 2000. He ended up spending 12 years in Congress. In all those 12 years in Congress, he never passed a single bill. If he ends up becoming the running mate, there will be plenty more to say about his time in Congress and things like that funny moment when his mom told the press about his plans for running for president in 2012, and then he had to publicly rebut his mom. That was kind of weird. There's a lot that will be said about Indiana under Mike Pence's governorship since 2012. There's a very interesting story to be told about why his home state press is so strongly and relentlessly negative on him, even though the Indiana press is not particularly liberal. And that will all come if he's in fact named as the running mate. But in thinking about Mike Pence as Donald Trump's possible vice presidential running mate, just look at one thing. Just look at one specific instance from his time running the state of Indiana as governor. Just look at the one big national spotlight moment that he has had as governor, as an executive branch leader. He's been there for less than one term. Only one thing happened when the whole country was paying attention and pressuring him. And it's worth looking at that moment because that one moment in the national spotlight was a disaster for Mike Pence.
No, it's the lasers.
It was a disaster on policy grounds. It was a disaster on political grounds. It was a disaster ultimately on fiscal grounds even. But most of all, I think it's worth noting that it was a personally disastrous moment for him as a leader, as a politician who was supposed to be in charge. Because his one moment where the whole country was paying attention to him and he was under a ton of pressure for what he was going to do, for how he was going to fix the mistake he had made, in that moment, Mike Pence choked in public. He just fell apart. I'm going to play for you something that I feel like it's a little weird. It's been lost in the sauce, given what's going on with Mike Pence right now and how important this choice is about him. I'm going to play for you a little bit of a Mike Pence press conference. It's a little uncomfortable to watch. We're not going to edit this at all. We're not going to internally cut it or anything. We're just going to roll it so you can see how it happened in real time. I think it's pretty stunning. What this was the middle of a crisis in the state of Indiana. It's a crisis that Mike Pence created because of a bill that he signed. It really was a very high-pressure time. This was the cover of the largest paper in the state that morning. This is the front page of the Indianapolis Star. Fix this now. And that was a message for Mike Pence. Fix this thing that you broke. You have screwed up. You have screwed up this state. Fix this now. He was in the middle of a huge mess that he had created. He was responsible for it. And there was not just a statewide clamor for him to fix this now. There was a national clamor for him to fix this thing he had done. Nobody knew if he could handle the pressure. Nobody knew what he was going to do. But his office called a press conference.
Too fast.
And in the middle of all that, Mike Pence, leader of the state, walked up toward the microphones. And this is what happened. Just watch.
So fast. Is that even it? I found in the right one.
Thank you all for coming.
Is
It's
it
been a
the
tough
right?
week here in the Hoosier State. But we're going to move forward.
Mike Pence was something more than a pregnant pause.
Oh my gosh, that's
It
not
started off as
it.
maybe a display of
No,
gravitas,
landed right
right?
on
Like
top
a
of
sort
it.
of dramatic moment, but he just
Cheat.
sort of got stuck. He just had to do his breaths. It just took him that long
That's
to
not it either.
compose himself. These
you
things happen
supposed to
sometimes in
jump
modern
over
politics. A
it?
very famous one of these happened in the Arizona gubernatorial debate when it was Republican Governor Jan Brewer who just needed a minute.
So are you supposed to take it
And finally, we hear from Jan Brewer.
Thank you,
You
Ted.
have to
And
jump
it's
to the
great
second
to be
one,
here
or
with
come
Larry,
on?
Barry, and Terry.
You have to jump to
And
the
thank
second
you
one, I
all for
think.
watching us tonight. I have done so much for it. We have done everything that we could possibly do.
So guys, I'm sorry I ran out of time for this video. Bye!
It happens sometimes.